Hey folks, so if you're just joining back again, this is the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians Natural Resource Department doing a discretionary fish community survey on a section of the Ottaway River just down from the Brown Bridge Dam Removal Project. What you're looking at is a generator that is being used to supply electricity to the shockers that are going into the water to temporarily shock the fish so they float to the top, and then the people with nets are able to scoop out the fish and take them back up the river where they're being measured and they are being aged with scale samples so the DNR can look at the population. One of the things they're specifically looking at is the population of brook trout to brown trout. So I am actually here. We have Frank with the Natural Resource Department for the Grand Traverse Band, and in fact also the chairman of the implementation team for this whole river restoration project and the dam removal project. So Frank, you wanted to talk a little bit about what's behind us, in fact. So talking about the habitats that are in here, and specifically some of the ways that you're able to create those habitats when you reform the river into the relic channel. So if we look behind us, if we kind of talk about what we're looking at back up the river there, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of these wooded areas? You'll see where, and I'll show people where they are right now, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the ecology side of it. But
actually, let's talk a little bit about, before we can talk about actually creating habitat, talk about the way habitat creates itself. So what you see here is the importance of wood that actually falls in the stream from the adjacent riparian corridor. A tree falls in a river typically will back way up in time. So before there was European settlement here, there were tales of the Boardman River. There's documentation that said you couldn't float this river, you basically could walk across it. There was so much wood in it that wood drove the habitat, and it drove the habitat for a grayling species that lived here. Once the logging industry came in and basically cut every tree within 100 miles of here and everything along the riparian corridor, and then subsequently dropped those trees, logs into the water and floated them downstream, all the debris that came along with it off the barren hill slopes that this vegetation protects eliminated the grayling population. Basically, they're extinct. They no longer exist in this system and haven't because of those logging days. So then you kind of fast forward, and as the trees start to grow up in that riparian corridor, it takes 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years for a tree to grow tall enough to fall in. That tree right there is probably 40 to 60 years old. It reaches its lifespan, it falls in. When it falls in the water, it really drives the geomorphology of the system. When a tree hits the water, it actually creates stream facets. Side? Right there. When a tree hits the water, it drives the habitat within the stream by sorting the energy that comes downstream. Getting there and getting there. As the water moves downstream past this wood that's in the channel, it begins to sort out the substrate. The fines that are moving through the water system basically get stored up behind, because there's a little bit less energy behind that wood there. The wood blocks the water flow, so it slows the velocity and the energy, and some of the particles fall out. So you'll see a sorting of sands, sandy small materials up behind the wood in the stream. And then as you move down that slope from the existing sands into the actual thalweg, which is the deepest, if you will, not exactly the center thread, but the deepest part of the running river, it's called the thalweg. As you move down that facet slope from those stored sands behind the wood, you wind up with a gradation from sands to larger components to gravels to cobble. You can see it right at our feet. Typically in these midwestern streams near the thalweg is actually the roughest or the largest materials are there. And that's habitat for different creatures. So for all those macroinvertebrates, I'm trying to see if I can find something here. All those macroinvertebrate insects that live in this water column. There, oh, right there. That's a mayfly nymph right there. It could be a stonefly. That's a stonefly.
So that was a stonefly.
That was a stonefly.
You can see how the wood here is the habitat.
Yeah, so this definitely drives, not only does wood become a home for those invertebrates and the aquatic populations of fish feed on those, but it also, the larger the piece of wood, the more it influences flow. And like we said earlier, once it blocks the flow, the water can't go through it. It either slows as it moves through it, or it gets driven beneath it. And when it gets driven beneath it, it causes scour, deeper holes. And it also influences that, there's that hyporeic zone between groundwater and surface water, and it drives the exchange between surface and hyporeic, and in that hyporeic zone. So those are great habitat conditions. Sorry, we got some people behind me.
So you were hearing about the fish habitat, and as you look, we've got the shocking coming in here with the net behind it.
Talk a little bit about that other comment you made regarding creating habitat when there is none. So post dam removal, there was an impoundment there, so there was no tree growth along the edge of the riverine system. So as part of the Bourbon River Restoration Project, the Grand Traverse Band allocated funds that came through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, which is the Bureau of Ag. We have a liaison position. This fellow's name is DJ Shook, and he brought some natural resource conservation funds to create habitat in the Brown Bridge component, the first dam removal, where we see the river running through its natural course, but no large trees to be able to fall into that river for 40 or 50 years. So what was done there this past spring, late winter and spring, there were 23 large wood structures placed in the stream, and they are basically designed to emulate trees that would fall in the stream, and they help drive those habitat features that we see when a tree naturally falls in the stream. So basically what you're doing there is buying a little bit of time. You're advancing the you're advancing the ability for the river to redefine those stream bed characteristics that are conducive to good aquatic health.
Awesome. Well, thanks. And so over time then, as the trees grow, it will naturally start to form those habitats again. But meantime, using the trees that were already there from the sides of the banks and some additional felled wood, you were able to create those habitats so that the river can come back to its former glory faster.
Correct. Actually, in that case, there were 250 logs cut from a nearby forest, and we were just looking at that section where they were cut from just last week. And it's a good practice in forestry to have those cuttings. We see changes in those tree populations, but those 250 logs were cut from about a mile away from the actual site they were used in the river. And more than anything, it's just to remind people the value of wood in a stream. So in the old days, I think we saw a lot of organizations that would come through and clear out the wood in the stream so that people could canoe through, and fishermen might have an easier time. Well, there needs to be a balance between the amount of wood that's left in the stream and the ability for people to recreate the way they like. But if you're really looking at what's right for the stream, what's best for the resource, that wood in the stream and keeping as much of it there as possible is what's really important for the stream. It makes a huge difference. And you can see during the fishery survey, A lot of the action was happening around the wood that winds up falling in the stream. Makes a big difference.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Frank. And for people that don't know who you are, can you just let people know what your role is?
Sure. My name is Frank Deturi. I work at the Grand Traverse Bay Natural Resource Department as an ecologist and a project manager. I've been chairman of the Bourbon River Dam Settlement Agreement implementation team since 2011. And that team consists of it's a multi-agency team. The actual 8 voting members comprise the agencies that have specific rights to the resource and the owners. The city, the county, so City of Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians has right to that resource. State of Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Quality, Michigan Hydro Relicensing Coalition, Grand Traverse County. I think I said the city, Traverse City Light and Power. So those are the 8 voting members with the rights to the resource, and then there are ex officio members like Conservation Resource Alliance that Nate works for, and the Grand Traverse Bay Watershed Center, and a lot of other ex officio groups that help in that effort, help to bring funds to the project and help for the restoration of the river. That's basically the heartbeat of our community.
Absolutely, and in fact, tomorrow, people, you'll be able to join from there's actually an implementation meeting. And what time does that start, Frank?
1:30.
At 1:30. We'll be streaming that live, so you get an idea of these different, the different people that are involved with this, and the different government agencies that are involved with this project. And we'll also be doing some individual interviews. There's a gentleman who is working to make sure that this river is restored to its original name, because currently this is called the Bourbon River. Is that correct?
Yes. A fellow named Boardman moved into Traverse City in around 1848, and he was basically the champion or the main logging company that came in. He lived here from 1848, I think, to about 1852, and made quite a bit of money off the area. They recouped quite a bit of lumber from the area, which got run through mills and then shipped out to other parts of the country, mainly Chicago and Detroit, and then left in 1852, and somewhere thereafter they changed the name of the river from what it was previously, which all evidence that we have from older maps call it the Ottaway, and it's interesting that this river is named after the fellow that came and used and abused it.
And so there's a gentleman in the local community who is looking to basically get this river renamed back to its original name, the Ottaway. And we're going to speak with him tomorrow. The gentleman's name, he's involved.
John Nelson is his name.
John Nelson. So you guys will be able to hear from John Nelson tomorrow about why he's doing that and what his role is as well. And I believe we're also going to speak with Amy. And Amy is from the...
Amy Beyer is director of the Conservation Resource Alliance. She's one of those implementation team ex officio members that we talked about a little earlier, and she's been project manager, and her team has been project manager and helping drive the funding component of this project for 10 years now.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the funding and how these projects get done. Well, Frank, thanks so much. I'm going to have to run now. I've actually got to go back, and we're jumping on with some people from England who are involved with stopping the fracking over there. So we're going to go live virtually to England and learn about what's going on with the fracking, which is also happening over here as well. It's a sad state of affairs really in the world right now. There's a very big drive, it seems, to wring the last final profits out of the fossil fuel industry before it falls by the wayside, and it's causing a huge amount of environmental damage.
Appreciate your good work. Keep it up. The more people get informed, the more people understand how we can actually fight that cause.
Absolutely. Thanks, Frank.
You bet.
So thanks, guys, for joining. Please go ahead and share this. This stuff, I mean, it doesn't get the most viewers. I know it's the time of day, but it's really, really important because the information that's shared here, and it's just incredible information. It's stuff that you don't get to hear about very often. It's stuff that makes a big difference. I mean, the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians are doing such a huge amount of work here in Michigan, and have been for such a long time, and they're such a humble group of people, and they don't tell their story. They don't talk about what they do. There's not a lot of knowledge about it. But the work they do isn't for them, it's for everybody. And I mean, restoring this river, I mean, if you just look at this habitat here that we're in, I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. It's a stunning place to be. And the fact that they're looking to ensure that this comes back to its original state, and that the fish species that were once dying off are able to have a comeback here, is just incredible. And this goes out for all the water protectors all over the world that are standing up for what they believe in, for standing up for sacred water, sacred lands, sacred people. And we have to keep doing this, and we have to keep sharing this message and doing everything we can in our own communities to come together and talk about this. So if you're watching this, share this, because by sharing this you show the other side of things. Because so many people look at water protection as, you know, it's got a bad rep recently. People look at it as like people causing chaos, blocking roads, causing violence. That's the story that's told in the media. So everyone that's watching this knows that isn't true at all, knows that is not what it's about at all, and knows that that's a fictitious set of lies, basically, put out in the media to detract from the real work that's going on. So by watching this and sharing this, you get to show what the real story is with people, and they get to feel involved, and they get to understand what it's about, and understand why it's so important to make sure that everything is here for the future generations. Because we're going to be gone in a few years, and what are we going to leave behind? And with everything that's happening across the country, with the pipelines, the fracking, the mining, the burying of nuclear waste, we're leaving a cesspool for the 7th generation. And we're all involved in turning that around and making sure it's different. So thanks, Catherine, for joining us. See you out there, Glenn. Thanks, guys. I'm going to run, go and change out my wet welly boots, and we'll be back in a little bit with the anti-fracking camp from Derbyshire, England. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.